This is the next lecture to understand the basics of costing. So we have already seen the differences between financial and cost accounting, need for cost accounting, its advantages and objectives, and then we went into the details of classification of costs with the various examples for the classifications. Now the topic is apportionment, wherein the overheads or the indirect costs which cannot be directly traced to a cost unit need to be understood. So the absorption of these overheads are done by apportionment and reapportionment. So now with this, let us go into the topic. So an overhead is an expenditure on labor or a material or a service that cannot be economically identified with the saleable cost unit. The saleable cost unit in a spinning mill is yarn per kg, 40 yarn per kg, 60 yarn per kg. So the cost unit is per kg. I already asked you on what are the cost unit for knitting, weaving. It is per meter for weaving. It is per kg for knitted fabric. It is per kg for yarn, and it is per meter for woven fabric. It is per meter for when it is sold to a garment industry. When it is in a garment industry, it is per piece. The cost unit is per piece. But these costs which are incurred in the industry are not got in terms of per unit of output produced. You do not have electricity charges per kg of 40 yarn. You do not have any term like that. So you have that is as a total pool, and that has to be divided further. So, as I said, the elements of cost and its basic understanding is very much necessary before understanding anything related to costing. We have the basic classification as material, labor, and other expenses based on the nature. And in that materials, you have direct and indirect materials, labor and direct labor, other expenses as direct and indirect expenses. Direct expenses are the common example is royalty paid, because most of the expenses are indirect. The direct expenses are very few in number. So all these indirect contribute to your overhead because they are indirect. You don't know whom to directly assign that, but it's a common cost. Overhead is a common cost. As a manager is common for all the people. It is an indirect labor. A material, a lubricating oil or a sweeping broom that you get is a material which is common for the total factory. And an indirect expense like in electricity, lighting electricity is common for the total factory. You cannot divide it for this count. For 40 count, this much lighting was used. You have it as a common, but further you have to divide it. That is so the overheads are like a common pool, and you have to have some base for dividing this and allocating for the other. Uh, for the various products produced or various processes that are involved. So this based on the behavior, element and function basis, the overheads may be classified as indirect labor and expenses, as fixed variable and semi-variable overheads based on function. Similarly, as production, administration, selling and distribution and general overheads. So this is the classification of overheads, and this is similar to your classification of costs. Then because overhead is again a type of cost. It is just a subdivision of your cost. So what does the term absorption mean? When it is the direct cost, you don't have any problem in allocating to the cost unit. You have how much units are produced, divided by that you will get you can allocate it directly to the cost unit. Say you have this much raw material cost and this much kg of yarn produced. You have purchased this much amount of cotton, and this say you have purchased 1200 kgs of fiber and you have got 1000 kgs of yarn. You can directly divide and allocate to the cost unit directly. Whereas The indirect costs, overheads, which I mentioned earlier, indirect material, labor, and expenses, you cannot directly assign this indirect cost from to this cost unit directly. You have a process that is involved. So you will allocate it to a cost center. You will allocate it to a person or an equipment or a location. Then you will apportion. Here comes the important word, apportion. You will on a particular basis you will split. You are portioning it. Apportion means you are dividing it into various portions for the production and service departments, and that is service department again is reapportioned to your production department. So already the total cost is divided for the production and service departments, because only the product you in the production you have the cost unit, the service cost are again reapportioned to the various production departments, and then it can be absorbed to the cost units. So the now we have the new four terms: allocation, apportion, reapportion, and absorption. You will better understand these terms when we see the example. So allocation, when the cost you know specifically, it is apportioning when the costs are common. When it is overheads, when the costs are common, you have to split that into various portions and assign to the various production departments or various products that are produced in the production department. So allocation is the process of assigning direct costs to the cost center. Very simple. All indirect costs are traced to cost center through allocation. When it is traceable, only then you call it as direct cost, and you do not have any problem in allocating the cost. When it is indirect cost, you have the problem. You cannot directly assign to a cost center. You have to apportion, and only then you can assign that cost to the cost center. The basis on which you apportion is called as cost center. Where you apportion to the various cost centers is called as cost driver. The cost driver is a factor. It is a factor in which the level of activity or volume is used. That is the one which is used as a driver, which affects the cost, which is the major cause for that effect. You should have the driver, and that effect that is there should have good relationship. This should have a better relationship. Some other may be a cause, but will be the main cause. So you will take the main cause as a base for apportioning the cost or dividing into the total cost into various portions to map it with the product or a production area. So the examples for cost drivers are when it is machining operations. So a common machine is there where for three different products, so they come and use it for some hour to few hours and go. Then for each product, how many hours is the base? Machine hours is the base or the cost driver for apportionment of the total costs that are incurred in the machining operations. You can take setup hours. Inspection, if the total inspection cost is there, and you have the various pieces inspected, product 1, product 2, and product 3, according to the number of pieces of product 1, 2, and 3, you apportion the total inspection cost. The order cost, if you have the total order cost, then you will take the purchase order for with the way 3 or 4 products that you have, and on that basis you will apportion the total order cost. So these bases are called as cost driver. So we'll look into this problem now. I want you to take this in your note and then try to understand, find the cost driver, and then apportion and absorb it to the various products given here. So we have 6 different activities or overheads here. We have the overheads. So material handling and inspection cost, I'm sorry, material handling and dispatch cost, inspection cost, stores receiving, machine operation and maintenance cost. We have only 5 costs. I told it wrongly as 6. Setup costs. We have various costs which we don't know for which product to assign and what basis to assign. So now we'll try to understand that these are the various overheads. There are 5 overheads. It is a common cost. Material handling and dispatch. You have all 3 products produced in a company, and for the material handling and dispatch of these 3 products, totally the cost is 12,000. You don't know what are how the costs are not separately and they are not direct costs. It is an indirect cost, so we have to apportion on some basis. So we are finding which is the base among the 5 things which are given here. For material handling and dispatch, what might be the base for apportioning this cost? Is it order executed, number of inspections, number of production runs, number of machine hours, or requisition raised? What would be the better thing? Now let us go into the problem and I'll explain you how to deal with this, what is the best cost driver and how to apportion and find the indirect cost based on the various overheads and portion it to the 3 products that are given here. Now we are going to see the problem in an Excel sheet. See, we have the question and we have the overheads. Activities are the various overheads: material handling and dispatch, inspection, stores receiving, machine operation and maintenance cost, and setup cost. And we have the cost for the various overheads, but we don't know for which product or process it is. Now they have given some other particulars like this. Like you can see the particulars. The particulars are given here. They have given 5 different particulars: orders executed. We have to match the activity and the particulars or the overhead. You can call this as overhead. The overhead with the particulars, which is the best cost driver for this activity, we have to find out. For each particulars, they have given what are the, so in this they have given 3 different products, A, B and C. The orders executed for product A is 15, B is 10 and C is 12, and the total orders executed is 37. The total of these 3 is given here as 37. Next, number of inspections. You have the inspection cost and number of inspections. It's direct. You can easily find the uh, cost driver. They have done totally 55 inspections and 20 of product A, 25 of product B and 10 of product C. The number of production runs are 40, and in that 25 for A, 10 for B and 5 for C. Similarly for the other particulars also they have given. This is the question, and now we need to find the cost driver and apportion the cost of this, the cost that had occurred in the various cost of the various overheads need to be apportioned for the product A, B and C. Now we'll see the solution. We have to write the overhead and the overhead cost like this. Then we have to match the cost driver. So for material handling and dispatch, orders executed is the cost driver. For inspection, number of inspections, it is easy to find. For stores receiving, requisition raised. Requisitions raised means how many requests in an industry, the various production and other departments will give a requisition to the stores and then receive the materials. So how many requisitions have been raised is a cost driver for the stores receiving overhead apportioning. Then material operation and maintenance cost, number of machine hours. According to the hours the machine has run, they are dividing the machine operation and maintenance cost, setup cost, number of production runs. So these are the cost drivers that are occurring for the various overheads. Overhead or activity, the overhead cost is given and cost driver has to be found. After finding the cost driver, you have to write the total. You have to write the total or the total of the various uh, particulars of the cost driver, and then that for the product A, B and C. Now you have to write like this. Now how to find this? You have to write, you have to do the apportioning. I will say you how to do the apportioning. This 484, 4864 is got. I will show you now. See, to find out this cost, you have to, this is equal to, this is equal to, I will write it here. So it is orders executed. So 15 orders for A. So here it is 15 equal to, actually I have inserted the formula. Now I will put the actual value for you. Equal to 15. 15 is the orders executed for A. So 15 divided by the total orders 37 into, so this into the overhead cost, this overhead cost. So this into the overhead cost, which is 1200. 1200 will give you the, so this is the value, and now you have got. So this is equal to 15 divided by 37 shift into, I am giving the formula now instead of the values. So you will get this value. Similarly for A, it is this equal to 10 divided by total into 12,000. I told us 1,000. Similarly for C, it is 12 divided by 37 into 12,000. So that value you can get. I want you to calculate the others also similarly. So for the inspection, for here it will be 20 divided by 55 into 17,000. For B here, for this one, so I will fill this. Now for product B, the apportioned value is 17,000 into 10 divided by 55. Hope you're getting the same answer. Similarly, do it for the others and check. For requisition raised, the total requisitions are 28 for product 8 divided by 20 into 16,000. So it is 8 divided by 20 into 16,000. You will get this value. Now 3 divided by 20 into 16,000 is this value. 9 divided by 20 into 16,000 is this value. It is a very simple division. Apportionment is a simple portioning of the total cost to the various products. Similarly, for machine hours, you have 925 is the total machine hours. 400 hours of machine has been run for product A. So 400 divided by 925 into 10,000 is this value. Next, 250 divided by 925 into 10,000 is the next value for product B. For product C, 275 divided by 925 into 10,000. So next is number of setup cost, number of production runs. So here it is production runs, it is 25 divided by 40 into 8,000. Here similarly, here we have 10 divided by 40 into 8,000. Here next is 5 divided by 40 into 8,000 here. So we have got the apportioned value. Now we have to find the total for product A. From here to here, you have to total. You have to total from here to here. Put some other color here for product A. The total is 26,000. Similarly, sum from here to here and put it here. Next, sum from this to this. Here. So these are the values. So now the answer is for product A. So this for product B, this, and for product C, after apportioning, you get product A, product B, product C. The cost for product A, B, and C is found out. So this is the apportioned cost. Now you have got the total overheads divided for the three products. Earlier you had the overheads, you had certain particulars regarding A, B, and C. Now you have apportioned this cost. You can find the recheck by putting here, here as well as here. Rechecking can be done like this. So rechecking this, you have to add from A to C and find whether you are getting the same value which is here, because you have apportioned this 12,000 into 3. So you have to check whether you have apportioned it rightly by totaling these three. If this total is equal to this overhead cost, then you are right. And also the total here, total of the product A, B, and C, which is equal to this one, should be equal to the total here, sum of this, the total overheads here, this value and this value, final value should match. Only then your answer is right. You can recheck. So the total overhead is 63,000, which is apportioned for the three products. Hope you have understood apportionment. With this, we will complete and we will see another sum tomorrow with apportionment and reapportionment. Thank you. Next, we'll see on apportionment along with reapportionment. So, as I already said, the direct costs are directly allocated to the cost unit, which are traceable. The indirect costs or the overheads need to be allocated to the cost unit. So one way is apportionment when it is happening in the production departments. When it is service departments, those costs have to be reapportioned to the production departments and then absorbed to the cost unit. So this we'll see in the next example. So now this is the problem given for understanding absorption, costing, apportionment and reapportionment. Both are included in this calculation. Here we have various overheads. I am highlighting. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 overheads are there, and the cost for those 7 overheads are given. So I hope now you can understand which are overheads. So these are the overheads and you have the total cost for this. This has to be apportioned for 3 departments. If you have spinning, weaving and processing, and in your composite mill, and you have these see, department A is spinning, maybe department B is weaving, and department C is processing. You have 3 departments, and these the top are the various overheads. You do not have a separate timekeeping and accounts for spinning, weaving and processing. You have a common value power is a common value, canteen is a common value. All the three working people use the same canteen. Stores is common for all three. Depreciation value is common. Rent is common for the total. And indirect wages is also common for all the three departments as well as the service department. There is another service department. So now we need to see. We have the various other particulars given. So we have the other particulars that are given for the three production departments and one service department. We have four departments now, three production and one service department, commonly providing service for the three departments. So these are the particulars. We have the capital value. Capital value means the value of the plant and machinery that are available in Department A, Department B, and Department C and Service Department. The number of workers who are working in Department A, B, C, and Service Department is given. The floor space is given. The value of store requisitions is given. The HP of the machines are given for the three departments and the service department. The direct wages of the three departments and service department. We have these data. Now, and one more data is given in the question. The service department is offering its services, total services 30% to Department A, 25% to Department B, and 45% to Department C. So these are the data that are given in the question. Now we'll see how to apportion this overheads using the data that is provided. These data you can take in any industry you go, this data is available. This data is also available. You need to apportion and find for the production departments and cost to the various products. That is the reason we are doing this apportionment. So now I want you to write the same. I am erasing off all those things and we can find it one by one. So you have to first find for the overhead which is the appropriate basis. For timekeeping and accounts, what would be the appropriate base in the given sum? What would timekeeping and accounts? Timekeeping and accounts are done for the workers. So that would be an appropriate basis for apportionment. Then for power, what would be? This is not the direct power or indirect power. We don't know whether it is direct or indirect power. If it is indirect power, then we can use floor space. But here we can use HP of machines as the better base for power. Then canteen. Yes, obviously it is number of workers is the base for canteen. You have for timekeeping and accounts also number of workers, and canteen also the number of workers is the base. For stores, certainly it is value of store requisitions. For depreciation, we saw already an example. We have for depreciation, what would be the capital value. Capital value means the value of the plant and machinery that are available. That is one that depreciates. Rent, again, you will have floor area as the base. For indirect wages, we cannot have to find among these, direct wages is a better base compared to others. So we are using indirect wages. You can use direct wages as the base. So our first job in overhead apportionment is to find which is the basis for apportionment. If you find the right base, then it becomes easy. Then you are writing the values of this number of workers for department A, B, and service center. From the question, you are filling up those values here. I want you to do it in your note. Then the next step, these are there in the question. The only work which you have done now is finding the basis for apportionment. And after finding the basis, you are filling up the values for the departments and service department. The next work is to find the total of these four. You have to sum 15, 15, 20 plus 6. You have the total here as 56. The sum of 5,500, 2,500, 5,500 and 850. You have the total here 14,350. Then 15 plus 15 plus 20 plus 6. The same we have here. Again, number of workers. Then value of store requisitions 13 plus 8 plus 14 plus 0. We have the total here 35. Then similarly the total for the rest. I want you to do the sum. You can pause and do the sum and find if it is correct here. Then you are filling this from the question. You are filling this the overhead cost from these values. So timekeeping and accounts, the overhead cost can be written from here, which is 35,000. Similarly, for the others, you are filling this. All these things are from the question. These things you can fill from the question. The timekeeping and accounts, what is the cost for this overhead? So all these things are there in the questions. You are rearranging and writing on the basis of apportionment. You are writing the overheads, finding the base for apportionment, writing those values. You have next found the total here. One more work is done. Total is done. Overhead is cost is from the question. Now I have told during the slides you overhead apportionment rate. I have told you in the slides, you can see, I have told you. OAR, overhead cost per unit, can be found using overhead absorption rate. This is what you are going to find here now in this overhead absorption rate. What is this? We already saw in the sum, but we didn't mention that as a separate column in the last problem which we saw. This is the value is 625. How would you have got that value? So you are getting this by the overhead divided by the total of the base. So it is here 35,000 divided by 50. You have got this. The overhead apportionment rate. Overhead apportionment rate. Overhead divided by the total. So it is equal to overhead cost divided by the total base of apportionment, which is the base here. So here it is 75,000 divided by 14,350. Next 20,000 divided by 56. You have similarly 30,000 divided by 35. 60,000 divided by 5240. 25,000 divided by 14,700. 45,000 divided by 5,85,000. So you do not think that it should be a whole number. It can be anything. The total may be different. The overhead, you don't have any relationship there. So it may be a decimal or a bigger number like this, 857 or 0.07. Anything may be your overhead apportionment rate. Overhead cost divided by the total value of the basis. So this is overhead apportionment rate. You can find this and just multiply it with the, if you find this, the calculation becomes easy. So here, now we are apportioning. This is apportionment. We are apportioning here. I will put the heading here as apportionment. You are doing the apportionment here. So you are apportioning this total overhead for the 4 departments that are available, A, B, C and service department on this basis. So here it is. I hope you have found it is 15 divided by 56 into this. Instead of this, since you have find the overhead absorption rate, you can just multiply the 15 into overhead absorption rate. You will get the answer here as this. Similarly for the others. Here for department B, it is 15 into overhead absorption rate. Here it is 20 into overhead absorption rate, which is 625. Then for the service department, 6 into overhead absorption rate, 625. So I've got the answer. Similarly for the next row, you can recheck simultaneously. The total of these four should be here. Then you can find whether this value and the overhead, because this overhead is apportioned here, the total should be equal to the overhead. So you can recheck whether your values are right here. Then for the department A, for the next row, you have here 5,500 into 5.22 overhead absorption rate. Then 2,500 into overhead absorption rate. 5,500 into overhead absorption rate, 850 into overhead absorption rate. Here 15 into overhead absorption rate, 357. Similarly for the other departments. Next is value for store requisition, 13 into overhead absorption rate. Here is 857 and you can fill in similarly for the others. For the other overheads, I hope you remember the overheads. It is stores, depreciation, next is depreciation and rent and for indirect wages. I want you to do on your own and check the values here. Pause, do on your own, then recheck, and finally we can see if the total overhead cost, sum of this overhead total should be equal to the final here, this total, and you have to find the total for all the departments also. You have this is the apportioned value. This is 70% of your results are obtained. You have apportioned the various overheads and found the total for department A, department B, department C and service department. Now one more work you have to do, reapportion this service department cost to this 3 departments, which we are going to do now. So we have service department. The total service department is entered here. This value, this value is entered here, and we already have the basis for that. What is the basis? We are given in the question. The service department. The service department is reapportioned on this basis. 30, 25, 45, you have to put that here, and this value is into 0.3, 0.25 and 0.45. You will get these values. So now this service department cost is reapportioned to department A, department B and department C. So now you're finding the total already apportioned values. You have to enter from here. These are the apportioned values, and the reapportioned values from the service department is entered, and you are finding the total for department A, department B and department C. So this is how you have to find the, so after apportioning we have the same here in this slide. Now you have seen already, you can go back and see the direct cost can be directly allocated. What we did now is indirect cost overheads have to be allocated to the cost center. How? By apportioning for production and service department, then the service department reapportion to production department and absorb to that cost unit. This is what we saw in this problem now. So these are the overheads, these are the particulars. With those particulars, we are finding the apportionment basis. That values are entered, the total is found, then the overhead costs are filled in from the question. Overhead absorption rate is found. Then that using the overhead absorption rate, you are apportioning to the uh, various departments, including service department. Then that service department cost is again taken and reapportioned to the production departments. That is also entered, and the total for department A, B, and C is found here. Now we will go back to the slide. I want you